Fred Trump, the man who built a real estate empire before the Trump name became famous. When people hear the name Trump, they often think of towering skyscrapers, luxury hotels, television, politics, and one of the most recognizable families in America. Yet, decades before the Trump name appeared on the skyline of Manhattan or entered the White House, another Trump quietly built one of the largest private real estate empires in New York City. His name was Fred Trump. While his son Donald would become an international celebrity, Fred spent nearly his entire life avoiding the spotlight, preferring construction sites to television cameras and balance sheets to newspaper headlines. Fred Trump's life is a uniquely American story of immigration, hard work, ambition, discipline, controversy, and extraordinary wealth. From a fatherless 12-year-old learning carpentry in Queens to a billionaire real estate patriarch responsible for tens of thousands of homes, Fred Trump helped shape New York City while laying the financial foundation for one of America's most famous business families. Growing up in an immigrant family, Fred Trump was born Frederick Christ Trump on October 11, 1905, in the Bronx, New York City. His parents were German immigrants whose lives reflected the hopes of millions who came to America seeking opportunity. His father, Frederick Trump, originally named Friedrich Trump, immigrated from the German village of Karlstadt in the late 19th century. After arriving in the United States, he worked as a barber before heading west during the Klondike Gold Rush. Instead of searching for gold himself, he built restaurants and boarding houses that served miners, eventually earning enough money to return to New York and invest in real estate. Fred's mother, Elizabeth Christ Trump, was equally important to the family's success. Intelligent, determined, and business-minded, she helped preserve the family's investments after tragedy struck and became one of the greatest influences on Fred's life. The Trump household valued discipline, thrift, and hard work. Every dollar had a purpose, and every family member was expected to contribute. Tragedy changes everything. In 1918, the worldwide influenza pandemic claimed the life of Fred's father. Fred was only 12 years old. Rather than selling the family's business, Elizabeth Trump chose to continue operating it. She involved Fred in nearly every aspect of property management, exposing him to repairs, maintenance, construction planning, and tenant relations at an early age. This experience became an education no classroom could provide, learning the construction trades. As a teenager, Fred decided he wanted to understand every part of the construction business. He learned carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, brick masonry, blueprint reading, cost estimation, property maintenance. Instead of supervising from a distance, he worked alongside laborers, gaining first-hand knowledge that later allowed him to manage large construction projects with confidence. His first building project. In the early 1920s, New York City suburbs were expanding rapidly. Using resources connected to the family business, Fred built his first house while still a young man. He completed much of the labor himself and sold the property for a profit. Rather than spending the money, he reinvested every dollar into another project. This cycle of building, selling, and reinvesting became the foundation of his lifelong business strategy. Fred eventually took a leading role in the family company, known as E. Trump and Son. Unlike many developers who pursued luxury projects, Fred focused on affordable housing for working and middle-class families. His developments emphasized strong construction, reasonable rents, reliable neighborhoods, long-term rental income. This practical approach allowed the business to grow steadily for decades, surviving the Great Depression. The Great Depression devastated the American economy, forcing many construction companies into bankruptcy. Fred survived because he managed money conservatively. He controlled costs, limited debt, and concentrated on housing that remained in demand even during difficult economic times. By the time the economy recovered, many competitors had disappeared, leaving new opportunities for expansion. World War II. During World War II, housing demand increased around military bases and shipyards. Fred secured government-supported contracts to construct housing for defense workers and military personnel. These projects expanded his company's experience, workforce, and financial strength. The post-war housing boom. After the war, millions of returning veterans needed homes. Fred quickly responded by constructing apartment complexes and residential communities throughout Queens and Brooklyn. Over several decades, his company built or managed more than 27,000 apartments and houses, making him one of New York City's largest residential developers. His buildings provided homes for tens of thousands of families and remain part of New York's housing landscape today. His business philosophy. Fred believed lasting wealth came through patience and discipline. His principles included: never waste money, watch every expense, inspect construction personally, keep debt under control, build for long-term income, focus on quality. Employees frequently noted his extraordinary attention to detail. He could identify construction flaws that others overlooked and expected high standard from everyone working on his projects. Marriage and family. In 1936, Fred married Mary Ann MacLeod, a Scottish immigrant. Together, they had 5 children: Mary Ann Trump Berry, Fred Trump Jr., Elizabeth Trump Grau, Donald Trump, Robert Trump. Although the family became wealthy, Fred maintained a reputation for discipline and expected his children to understand the value of work. Teaching Donald Trump. Donald Trump spent much of his youth accompanying his father to construction sites, apartment buildings, and business meetings. Fred taught him lessons about real estate financing, property management, cash flow, construction, negotiation, long-term investing. These experiences strongly influenced Donald's later business career. Controversies. Fred Trump's career was also marked by controversy. Congressional investigators examined profits from certain government-backed housing projects during the 1950s. In 1973, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a civil lawsuit alleging housing discrimination by the Trump Organization. The company denied intentionally discriminating, and the case concluded with a settlement that included changes to rental practices without an admission of liability. These events remain important parts of his historical legacy. Financial success. Fred accumulated enormous wealth through disciplined investing, careful construction management, rental income, and long-term ownership of real estate. Rather than relying on risky speculation, he built his fortune gradually over many decades. His business became one of the largest privately owned residential real estate companies in New York. Philanthropy. Throughout his life, Fred supported hospitals, medical organizations, educational institutions, veterans groups, and charitable causes. Unlike many wealthy business leaders, he generally donated quietly without seeking public recognition. Final years. During the 1990s, Fred's health declined as he developed Alzheimer's disease. He gradually stepped away from business while Donald assumed greater leadership within the company. Fred Trump died on June 25, 1999, at the age of 93. Legacy. Fred Trump left behind more than buildings. He left behind a philosophy centered on discipline, hard work, careful investing, and long-term planning. Supporters remember him as one of New York's most successful residential developers whose work provided housing for thousands of families. Critics argue that his legacy also includes the controversies surrounding government investigations and discrimination allegations. Regardless of perspective, Fred Trump transformed a modest family business into one of the most successful private real estate companies in New York City. The financial foundation he built enabled future generations of the Trump family to pursue larger ambitions in business, entertainment, and politics, ensuring that the Trump name would become recognized around the world. If you enjoyed this content, please press the subscribe button. Until next time, thanks for watching.